What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Crafter Hours. I'm David Wilson, and we're back with another stream where we get together and try to work on something interesting during the span of about 2.5 hours. Is the camera a little bit laggy? Whatever. It is what it is. So yes, we've been working on, for maybe the past 2 months now, a new website called emaxpackages.com. If you try to go there right now, though, you'll see that emaxpackages.com is staging.emaxpackages.com. You'll see that it's down. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we have been working on a website that is written in Guix scheme, and it has a front end that is done completely server driven using a library called Datastar, which is pretty cool. We made quite a lot of progress over time. And I've also at the same time been rewriting the systemcrafters.net website to use a similar strategy. And what we're going to talk about today is some work that I'm doing to host both of those sites on the same server. I actually already did the work. Big Edie says, bit disappointed this video isn't titled 2 sites, 1 server. Yeah, I don't really want to draw any comparisons to that particular piece of internet lore. Yes, we will be experimenting with something that I did off stream because the past few weeks have been insane, to get the new systemcrafters.net website set up. I'll show actually what I did to package the site with the static content, which is kind of interesting. I had to do quite a lot of effort to make that work, but anyway, it'll be interesting. Let's see. Let me say hello to the people who are here so far. Hello to Luis, Big Edie, and Peter. Nice to see you all. If you're on the YouTube side or on the Twitch side, please send a message in the chat so I can greet you. Last few weeks have been interesting. Let's see, like 2 Mondays ago, I think, was whenever I had to end the stream early because I had to go get my daughter early from school because she was sick, and then she ended up in the hospital for a few days. And then the following week, I think we were out of town. So I ended up not streaming at all last week because I was out of town on Monday, and then Wednesday I was trying to get caught up on everything. So we're a little bit behind on stuff, but I did work on the projects in the meantime. So I'm gonna go through a little bit of explanation of that. Let me see if I can toggle this cam a little bit. The lag is starting to annoy me. Is there anything I can do to make this reset? Frame rate, let's put it at 30 for a second. Is that any better? No, probably not. Anyway. So, just trying to find the right entry point to all this. I guess my goal currently, which is probably not a good goal, but it is the current goal, is to try and host both systemcrafters.net and emaxpackages.com on the same Guix server. It's a relatively small VPS, virtual private server on the host Contabo, which has been pretty good so far. I've actually quite liked using Contabo. The DST threw me off, Glenneth. Yeah, it's been throwing me off the last few weeks. I thought last week the DST was over, but apparently it was this week. So, or sorry, I thought it was started last week, but apparently it starts this week. So I'm fully off track with what the current time zone is. So yes, having both server sites on one server could be problematic, especially if both sites get a lot of traffic. But the nice thing about Guix is that it would be fairly easy to move the configuration of one of the sites to a separate VM if I need to, or separate host. So we're gonna try having both run on the same server for now. It did work slightly, when I was hacking on this maybe the week before last. And then I broke it somehow. And I've got a few theories on what happened there, but I'll discuss them with you in a moment. Tony says, are you able to host it on a ThinkPad in your garage? Well, I don't really want, a lot of internet traffic coming to my home internet. I think my ISP would shut me down. Because I do get, quite a few page views on systemcrafters.net. But yes, you could certainly do that. Let's see. Oh, and side note, I did actually start looking into writing an HTTP2 server implementation in Guile while I was on vacation. I didn't really get very far. I can't really say that I wrote much of anything. I was mainly just reading the specification for HTTP2. Kind of interesting though. I quite like it. I'm interested to go and try to implement that because it does seem fun. It's a bit more structured, I would say, than HTTP1 because it's a binary format that has actual, predictable byte lengths for certain things. It's not just, a text protocol that you have to parse. So it does seem like it would be fun to work on that, but that might not happen for a little while. My goal was to try to get something like that going for the Game Jam that's coming up in May. So there's the Spring Lisp Game Jam 2025 that's coming up May 9th, which is a little over a month from now. And I want to try to make a game, like a multiplayer game of some sort that runs in the browser, but it's not a WebAssembly game like we've done the last couple times. It would be actually a game that is using Datastar and sort of live updates from the server for every person who's connected. So instead of using WebSockets, we would be using a persistent HTTP connection with server-sent events to push events back to the client. I mean, why not use WebSockets? I don't know, because it just seems like an interesting application of using Datastar for making a game. So that's kind of why I want to do it that way. But the point of that is, the way that Guile's web stack is currently written, you can't really keep a long-lived connection open and keep writing things to it. It kind of expects you to finish writing what you want to write and then return back from your handler. So there needs to be a different approach for that. I might not go as far as to implement HTTP2 just to accomplish that. I might do something simpler and hackier with the HTTP1 that just gets it working. That would be a lot more achievable, I believe, for the purpose of a stream or a game jam. That takes only a few days. But ultimately, I would like to write an HTTP2 client-server implementation for Guile. I think it would be fun, and it might be an interesting project for the channel. So let me think about how I want to proceed describing this stuff. So today, let's just write the agenda for today, first of all. And we probably won't be doing any of the stuff that I said we would do next time because I have a different agenda in my mind for what I want to do. Monday, March 31st, 2025. We're almost done with March. Can you believe it? All right, agenda. So figure out why I can't deploy to the server anymore. I have a theory on that. Actually, I have a couple theories about what's going on, and I need to validate that. We may actually need to roll back the server config. Because something happened. And once we can deploy again, then, well, let me, first I'll give a run through of the systemcrafters.net deployment and packaging. Okay. Figure out why I can't deploy to the server anymore, and then make sure that both sites can run at the same time, and then maybe start working on some of the new SC site backend, because I've only got some very basic code there right now. It's just like a single route handler that returns hello world, and that's good enough just to verify that the Guile backend works, but it needs to actually do something for it to be of any use to anyone. So we'll have to take a look at that. And then if we get that far, we might do some of the other things we have in the background, like moving over more library code to Guile WebFrame, because we do need that. I would like to have some of these things usable by the System Crafters backend, and we may end up moving some of that stuff over right at the time that we try to pull more into, or add more functionality to this System Crafters website backend. Okay. And then maybe on Wednesday, we'll get back to the emacsPackages.com work specifically. I do really want to get that thing, in a place where people can use it without it going down every other week, because it has gone down twice now, and it's not really reassuring. Yeah, I'll give some thoughts on that in a second. Louis says, first quarter is done. The year is flying. Yes, it is. Glenn says, time to start them Q2 audits. Oh, boy. And hello to Glenn. Okay, so the new System Crafters website. Let's go to codeberg.org, System Crafters site, not the CI. We want to go to the actual repo, please. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go over to the scheme conversion branch. And what am I missing on the commits? Maybe I could just browse the site at this point. I guess it would be better to do this in Emacs though. So I'm gonna switch over to the scheme conversion branch. Yeah, over at my checkout. Having two branches here is kind of a pain in the ass. I wonder if I can do a work tree. Or maybe I can just check in the crafter hours notes for now. Maybe that's what I'll do. Let's check this in. So, in progress, crafter hours devlog. All right, and then we'll move over to scheme conversion. I'm gonna pull the latest contents of that. Start server would be overwritten by merge. Let's see what's in here. Site context. Did I start doing that last time and I forgot? Probably started doing it at some point. Okay, so let me jump into that folder, then I'll delete the start server because we already have one now. Pull that again. Keycast tab bar mode, put that on. All right, so we got everything pulled in now. Let me double check what's going on here in the source folder. Yes, site, SE site. I'll probably get rid of what's in here. So routes, what's in here? Log info. I think that's some of the code that I ripped off from the other project. Okay. Yeah, let's just get rid of these. All right, that looks about right. I don't know what that file is. Okay. Yes, kill it. Thank you. There we go. So, the current state of things. First of all, I'm going to look at the work that I did to set up a channel for the System Crafters site. The important thing is, first of all, getting the site package. So, to deploy the System Crafters website, what we need to do is generate all the static HTML files that comprise all the actual content of the site. Because if you didn't know, if you go to systemcrafters.net, all of this stuff is just static HTML pages that have been generated from Emacs using org mode. So all the stuff on the site is just static content. There's nothing dynamic about the current version of the System Crafters website. I want to keep it that way in very large part. In large part because it's very effective. Like, it's nice to not have dynamic stuff hitting the server every single request, because it means that when I host a site myself, I can just let Nginx do most of the work to serve the static files that are there, and I can even put it behind a CDN or something like that so that the static files are cached and it doesn't really put as much load on my server. But the point being is that static files are a lot easier to host for a lot of reasons. So I want to add some dynamic behavior to the site, but only in very targeted areas where it's not like a hot path, like where someone's coming to the site just because they're visiting to look at a tutorial or something like that. I want it to only show up in places where they're doing something like, you know, trying to log in to look at a course or some other kind of community profile settings or something like that. So I want it to be very specific areas where they have to be there on purpose. So static files are a large part of the site, and to package the site to make it deployable to Guix, I have to make a Guix package for the site, which means I need to generate the static files of the site as part of the Guix package. And that's what I did. So I created a package for systemcrafters.net, and it's using the local source directory for everything. So I'm not pulling the repo again. It's just the same repository that this package definition lives in. And I'm doing some similar stuff to what we did on the Emacs packages site package. We still have to do some stuff like installing the start server script in Guile for the backend to get started up correctly. We have to sort of replace the link to the path to the Guile interpreter in that script. And then we also have dependencies for the whole server that we have to use a similar process to what we did on the on the Emacs packages packaging to wrap the startup script with the correct load paths for all the dependencies. So that's not really something that's very interesting here. The interesting stuff is that I'm changing the way the site works to not be fully generated using org mode. It was being generated using full Nginx Lisp and org publish previously, which means that even the templating of the site was done with SXML, meaning S expressions that generate HTML via the ESXML library for Emacs. The big change now is that I've switched to using Haunt for generating the actual pages, and the actual templating of the pages is now done in Scheme, still using ESXML. A lot of the same site code is still, a lot of the same code is still being used for that to make the same layout. So if you were to look at haunt.scm, you'll see that I have very similar code to what I had before in the publish.el file. It's just, you know, standard SXML for putting together the HTML for the site header, the site footer, and then for generating the actual overall page content. I could probably take this line here out too. And then the silly thing that I do, because Haunt does not have org mode support built in, is that I actually have to run Emacs and org publish to publish the HTML bodies of all of the org files that comprise the content of the site into an intermediate folder to start with. So I'm running org publish on all the site files that are .org files to create their HTML, and then I'm running Haunt to wrap those plain HTML pages with the actual site templating. So why would I go to the trouble of doing all this crazy stuff? Well, the reason why is because some of the pages of the site will be dynamic and they need to have the same template as the static pages. So to do that and be consistent, I need to have the static pages and the dynamic pages use the same templating code to generate the actual page layout. So that's why I have a kind of a strange setup for this, but I think it actually will work out pretty well, because it will be almost impossible to tell which pages are statically generated and which are dynamic. So we will have a fully hybrid static dynamic website in this case. The other interesting aspect of that is that some pages can be fully static with very minimal dynamic bits built in, thanks to Datastar. Because if I have a static page that has some annotations in it for Datastar, then some parts of that page could actually go call to the server and then do something dynamic, like basically show whether the user's logged in or not on the site without actually having to hit the server. But then you can kind of, you know, log in using the site using sort of a dynamic flow. There's a few different things we can do there that I think is kind of interesting. But just using Datastar, and if you don't know what Datastar is, it basically allows you to have annotated HTML that can do dynamic queries to your backend, and the backend can return new snippets of HTML to replace stuff on your active web page. So basically, your website doesn't need to have any JavaScript code in it that you wrote to make it do dynamic behavior. It's actually all being pushed from the backend. So for a site like systemcrafters.net that does not need to be an app, does not need to work in offline mode. It works pretty well because it means that I can have dynamic behavior quite cheaply in terms of development costs because I don't have to write a whole bunch of front-end code for that. Just plain old HTML, CSS. Emperor Maximilian says, still needs an HTTP request though. Yeah, but Datastar takes care of that. So in the annotation that you do on various HTML elements, you can tell it to do like a GET request or a POST request to the server, but it's in Datastar's own markup language, let's say. And then it will take care of making the request for you. And then the server tells Datastar what to do in the response, like to replace an HTML element or to update some state values that are on the front end. Did I make Datastar? No, it was made by some other folks. I should be interviewing the creator of Datastar at some point on the channel. I'm sure he's mad at me because I was going to do it like 2 months ago, but I've been busy and I've been getting distracted on other things. So what can I say? But anyway, it's a great library. I've actually had a lot of success with it so far, so I highly recommend people to check it out. If yes, Bio says HTMX like, yeah, it was inspired by HTMX, but I think it's probably got a better design, in my opinion, anyway. Emperor Max says, can you look at my app? I mean, not really. I could, but I think I'd rather work on the one I'm working on. Bio says, I didn't really think about making my own CMS thingy. I made a simple mark publish for my Roam. I just published it, and I keep my journal private and bloggy type notes, which is just kind of verbose to get myself up to speed if I don't see for like 3 years. Yeah. Publishing a website from your personal notes is a cool idea. It's something I've tried to do multiple times. I just never really got a good setup for that going. I might still do it one day, but I keep changing which tool I use for notes. So that ends up getting in the way of me publishing a standard website for my notes. I'm going back to Denote now, though. All right, so the point I was making was that the website is hybrid static dynamic. It uses Haunt to generate the HTML pages that are wrapping content coming from org publish. And the same templating will be used for the dynamic pages where those need to show up. So that's good. All right, so now we got the Haunt configuration here. Really all we're doing is publishing a bunch of flat pages from the org output folder that gets created by this system call here. So you can see here, I'm actually, can you stop that? I'm launching Emacs from within the Haunt script to do the publish operation, and it writes it to a folder called org output. And when that happens, then the actual Haunt part will take over. It does the flat pages publishing for the org output folder, and it uses the template that I have for the site to wrap those pages. Also puts the static directory assets into the output folder for the full website as well. Carswell's Coat says no more Helm. I used Helm for a while, and then I sort of like drifted away from writing notes in Emacs for a little while just because I get distracted sometimes. And then when I came back to look at Helm, I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, this is cool. I like it a lot. But at the same time, there's just certain little details that annoy me, and Denote just feels a lot more natural. So I'm basically going back to the Denote. I haven't fully switched back over yet, but I'm that's the plan. So now that you've seen the Haunt script, the packaging would make a bit more sense. In this part, we have we're going to update the Haunt script to change the path to Emacs. So when you're running a build script, when you're constructing a package, you kind of need to replace the paths to specific programs with the actual path in the GNU store for that program. So what I'm doing here is I'm replacing that system star Emacs call with a system star call to the actual path to Emacs from the dependency for Emacs we're using, which is Emacs NoX toolkit. And after we do that, I am synthesizing a build script, a bash script called build.sh. And this is only going to show up inside of the Guix build folder. It's not going to show up in the project at all. So if you go look at the actual project, there's no build.sh here. It makes a build script, which the sole purpose of that is to invoke Haunt on the local project directory. I chmod that to make it executable, and then I use the wrapping functionality again of Guix to wrap that script with the proper Emacs load path for the dependencies that I have for the script. Because once again, the dependencies you install for Emacs, much like how the dependencies you install for Guile, are not being added to the environment for the build script. I don't know why that's happening. I don't really like it. I feel like Guix should be handling that for you because it's a lot of extra work to have to do just to use libraries for Emacs or for Guile. But I'm having to manually set Emacs load paths so that whenever I launch Emacs as part of the site build operation, that it can find Emacs ESXML and Emacs HTMLIs to properly generate the bodies for all the pages that I need whenever exporting the org files. Okay, so after all that is done, then I can finally launch build.sh using the system star function, and then copy all the files that get generated in that public folder to the output folder of this package called /www, like the output folder of the systemcrafters.net package /www, right? So if that package builds successfully, I now have a /gnu/store directory that has the generated files of systemcrafters.net inside of it. And that's the starting point. The next part of this is the service definition, which then is much like the one that we did for emacspackages.com. This one uses a Shepherd service to run the Guile backend, has an Nginx configuration for the sort of the front end of the site, let's say, the static files plus the reverse proxy to go to the backend because I don't want to expose the backend directly to the internet. And then the certbot configuration for HTTPS. So certbot's pretty uninteresting, but the first interesting part here I would say is the Nginx config. So in that, for the root of the site, we are taking that www folder from the systemcrafters.net package that we built to be the root of the website. That way, all the static files are going to get hosted directly by Nginx out of that folder of generated files that we created from the Guix package for the website. Okay, does that make sense? And then the location setup is a little bit trickier because what we need to do, there's 3 different places where stuff can come from. Well, is that right? There's 2 different places where stuff can come from. One is the static files. Okay, so whenever someone makes a request to the Nginx server for systemcrafters.net, first it needs to check to see if that URL correlates to a static file on the website. And if it does, it returns that directly. So we don't hit the Guile backend at all. Otherwise, if it tries looking for the URI in the root of the Nginx configuration and it's missing, it's going to move on to the backend configuration. So now the backend is a separate location, and that's actually the reverse proxy that goes to the systemcrafters site. So one problem that I ran into is that I was hard coding the port on which the emacspackages.com site was running. So I had to change the systemcrafters site to have a configurable port, which means that we need to have a configuration object for the systemcrafters site service. And that's what this is. I'm creating a configuration object. This is a Guix thing. This is a defined configuration is a Guix macro. The domain that we're hosting the site on is one of the fields. The other is the backend port, which is the port on which the Guile backend should run. And then there's use certificates, which is necessary for development mode. You don't want to try to use certificates whenever you're doing a local development deployment. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting errors because certbot won't work. Because your local server is not exposed to the public internet, and certbot can't do its little handshake to get those certificates to be registered. So now that we've seen that we have a configuration for that, we go back and look at the we go back and look at the configuration again, and we see that for the configuration of the reverse proxy, I'm actually pulling in the value of the systemcrafters site config right here. So systemcrafters site config backend port. So that's just how the configuration kind of flows into that. Then if the backend does not return a successful response, for the URL that's being requested by the user, then we have to do a 404. So I redirect that to the static 404 page that is part of the site. Let's see, on scripters.net, is that there? 404.html. Yeah, page not found. So basically it's a static page that relates to that gets shown anytime a 404 is encountered. So I'm replicating that behavior by using a little bit of extra Nginx configuration. All right. Another little thing I'm doing here is that I'm also adding systemcrafters.local as a domain for the configuration, because I've found that doing local development with a container, certain things are harder to deal with. Oh yeah, if you have a local container that hosts 2 websites inside of it, the only way Nginx can decide which site you're trying to access is by the domain that you're using. So you can actually set up in your /etc/host file extra domains that point to localhost, like systemcrafters.local, emacs-packages.local, etc., so that you can have your Nginx server inside your container to choose the right website. I don't know if we'll see that today. We might see it today if we experiment a little bit, but that's just something interesting that you might want to keep in mind as a strategy for doing multiple site development in a container in Guix. vhosts. Yeah, that's right. So because you have multiple sort of vhosts in Nginx, Nginx needs to know which one you're trying to access. So you have to do that based on the domain. Anything else here? Oh, the other thing that's interesting here is that I'm actually setting the port to be used as an environment variable in the Shepherd service configuration. So for the service that hosts that runs the server backend, I'm running the start service script, but I'm also setting the environment variable for port using the same configuration field that we saw before. And if you go look at the start service script under scripts, you'll see that I'm reading REPL port, but did I do that somewhere else? Yes, okay. In this part of the code, I'm actually reading the port. I probably should do that here though. Start service should probably take a port, and I should do that outside. Anyway, the point being, I'm reading the environment variable port, and if it has a value, I try to use that as a server port. Otherwise, I default to 8080. And that way, in the service configuration, whenever I start this service up using Shepherd, I can set the port to whatever I want, which is going to be whatever is in this configuration object. If I go look at the server configs repo, I actually need to pull that down. So let me just pull that code down real quick. Okay, I got the new code in. I'm going to look at, let's see, machines. Nope. Systems, main server. If we see the system crafters, yeah, here we go. System crafters service type. I'm using a system crafter site config, which is that configuration object we saw before. And I'm saying I want it to run on backend port 8082, and that's what causes the actual backend of the site to run on 8082. This prevents the two websites from clashing with each other, which is an important thing. I'm also only enabling certs when we're not in dev mode, and it's nice because now I can sort of push this down and not have each of the site service definitions in the separate repos to decide whether we're in dev mode or not. Dev mode is being determined by an environment variable called dev, and I use that in my dev scripts. Dev equals true, so that when I try to run the site in dev mode, either directly or in a container, or in a dev deployment maybe, yeah, in a container, then the certificates don't get used, and also some other things get changed. So we're starting to get a bit better configuration going on here now that is more configuration driven, like service configuration driven, and not sort of like hacky backend stuff. So I'm feeling a bit better about that. Are you bored yet? All right. So yeah, we got the two sites set up now in this configuration. So we have the system crafter server site with this configuration there. It's config object. We're gonna have to do the same thing for the Emacs packages service type 2. We may have to do that today. I don't know if that's part of the problem we're running into right now. I did update the code for Emacs packages slightly because one thing I noticed was when I deployed both these sites at the same time, they were failing to launch, and I didn't know why. And I started looking into it, and I saw that there was a conflict on ports. So one site was using a port, and the other site tried to use the same port. So I had set up stuff so that the backend sites would use, or sorry, the Guile server backends would use different ports using the environment variable. And it was still happening. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I don't know why it says I'm using the same port because I know for sure that I'm not. Turns out in the start server script, this is not the current one. This is the old one before I pull it down. In the start server script, I had forgotten that I left a -- listen here. -- listen. And that actually starts up a socket on the local server on a specific port to listen for REPL connections. So both servers had a start server script that used -- listen in it. So I was like, okay, I need to stop using that. So I changed my strategy for this. And once I pull this down, you'll see what that looks like. And now, I don't use -- listen anymore. I actually expanded this code out a little bit to look for a REPL port environment variable. If the REPL port environment variable is set, it turns on the REPL at that port. So when REPL port is there, it says starting REPL server on port, then it spawns a REPL server with the given server socket, okay? And then I think that's running in a separate thread. And then we start the actual HTTP server. So this has been working fine, this approach. And that means that also on the server in deployment, we're not starting a REPL into the running backend unless requested. So that's another sort of security vector that we have closed, a vulnerability possibly that we've closed on the server itself is not having the REPL running all the time. Bio says scheme rev shell win. What's that? Peter says, in my head, the responsibility to serve static content is owned by the reverse proxy and only dynamic content by backend services. Less configuration needed, less handovers, less memory needed. You mean Nginx? Yes, exactly. Like anything static definitely should be given by Nginx. I don't want any static content like files to download, images, CSS files, HTML files, etc. should definitely not be given by the backend. Only dynamic behavior should come from the backend. See a big ED. Because Nginx is way faster for something like that. I'm not going to be able to write Guile code that is as fast as Nginx for hosting static files. So definitely let Nginx take care of that. I would like to try Caddy at some point. People keep talking about Caddy as it being possibly better, but who knows? Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. The systemcrafters.net startup script looks effectively exactly the same. In fact, the DB thing doesn't need to be there anymore either on this one, so I can just take that out too. Pretty sure that's not there anymore. So now they are the same. All right. So once I tried deploying these sites, you can actually see that we looked at staging.emacsPackages.com before. That's 502 bad gateway because the backend is not responding, okay? The Nginx front end is responding, but the backend is not responding. If you go to staging.systemcrafters.net, you'll see that the site is responding and it's giving us the static pages. We can click through on any of the stuff here and the static pages show up just fine, but the little test backend that I made, /hello, is giving me 502 bad gateway. So both Guile backends are currently not working. I think this was around the time where I figured out the REPL issue, but then I had another problem, which is that I could no longer deploy the site. Anytime I try to deploy the site, it would hang. And I think what happened is that Shepherd somehow got locked up and I can't actually stop anything there anymore. So if I were to try to SSH into the server, sudo herd status, it is unresponsive completely. Like Shepherd is just not responding anymore to any commands. So I think that whenever I try to deploy with Guix, Shepherd is just like doing nothing. And I wonder if there's a bug in Shepherd, in the version of Shepherd that I'm using on the server, because it's kind of an older commit of Guix. So I tried to upgrade the Guix I'm using to upgrade Shepherd and deploy that, and it's still hanged. So I'm thinking I might need to roll back the configuration of the server. I've tried rebooting the server once before, and it didn't seem to help. Like, I rebooted the server, and then Shepherd seemed to be responsive. Then I tried to deploy the updated configuration again, and it still hanged. I don't know what happened with that. But that's sort of where we're going to start today, is to try to figure out what happened and go from there. So let's see. Sudo Guix system generations. List generations. All right, so let's see. What was the most recent? There's 48. That's March 21st. That seems like the day that I was working on it last. And then there is another March 21st, March 21st, March 21st, March 21st, March 21st, March 21st, March 20th. Okay, there's generation 41. Let's just set it back to that and then restart the server and see what happens. I also wasn't able to restart the server from the command line either. I had to go force restart it on Contabo, so I'm gonna have to do that again. So, Guix system rollback. We said it was 41, right? I don't remember the arguments. Roll back, switch the, oh no. Switch generation, there we go. This is one of the benefits of using Guix, is that if you really need to, you can go back to a previous OS generation. Actually, though, let's see if it works. Because if Shepherd doesn't let it... Okay, it seems fine, right? Conflict in server name, ignored. Also, another thing I keep hitting is that Nginx doesn't get restarted correctly sometimes when I deploy, which is very annoying. Let's see. Is it still working? Yeah, it's still working. Okay. Anyway, now we should be back to a different generation, and we can check list generations. In fact, I might be able to use Guix Scribe. We go back to 41. It ought to tell me. Whoop, right there. Current. Okay, so 41 is current. Even that says it got system crap site in it, though. Which one doesn't have that in there at all? Maybe I should go back even further. Looks like number 37. How about we try that? All right. Staging site still work? Yeah, it still works. Nginx probably hasn't been restarted yet. Let's see what Shepherd does. So sudo herd status. Yeah, Shepherd's still not responding. And if I try to restart, sudo reboot. Okay, so it says that it's closed. Okay, it actually did restart the server then, seems like. Or it seems to have. I'm not 100% certain that it did. Because it's still responding. Why would it be responding? Let's see what Contabo says. All right, let me do this right quick. Bonk. Is there no Guix bisect? I don't think so. Okay, so Contabo tells me that the site is running. Doesn't appear to be shut down, but I can't SSH to it. So I might have to force reboot. So let's I'm going to power it off, which, well, let's try hitting reboot first. I kind of think it won't work. What's the status? Okay, now it does seem that it's not responding. So maybe that means it is rebooting. Good, okay. Let's see if it comes back up. Where's the status of the site? It says running, okay. Give it a chance to come back up again. Okay, so we're logged back in. Let's see. Potential security risk ahead. I don't know why it's giving me complaints about that. Let's see. Bad gateway still. Oh, right, because it's not hosting systemcrackers.net anymore. That makes sense. Still bad gateway, though, which is interesting. Let's take a look at cat var log messages. Yikes. Okay, let's not do that. Sudo tail in 1000. Is that right? So that's March 31st. That's today. What did I do wrong? Okay, stopping services. This looks like part of the boot up process here. Boot up, boot up, boot up. Okay. Excuse me. Site DB init started. IP tables has started. I'm looking for site. Has site started? Nginx has started. Okay, the CI site. Let's see what else. Console font, certbot, okay. Okay. NTP. Okay, certificate stuff. That's it. Okay. I didn't see anything fail. Cat var log Emacs packages. Hello, server.log. Let's do the same thing. Sudo tail in 100 on that. Huh, that's some old stuff. That's from the 19th. Still bad gateway though, which is interesting. Let me make sure. Jay says, "What is this? Linux on-prem?" No, this is a VM in the cloud. Okay, so let me actually check that again. Sudo herd status. All right, so that's fine. SiteDB init had run. Sudo herd status site. It seems to be running, but for whatever reason, it is not responding. But that's okay. What we now have is at least a server that is capable of letting us to deploy things. So we've rolled it back. We were able to restart the server. So now I should be able to try to deploy a configuration again. Now what I want to do is go back to the server configs repo. And let's see, dev deploy. I want to do a dev deployment. because I'm looking at I'm going to try to deploy the system.net site again, emacspackage.com again to the same server. But let me double check the channel that I'm using, because maybe I want to use the latest stuff. Peter says, are the backend services started with make fork exec constructor? They definitely are. So if you look at the systemcrackers.net services, the SCM, make fork exec constructor on that one, and that's basically copied from the other one. So they're both being forked. Is that a problem, or is that? I mean, I think that's the right thing to do, right? Let's see, latest Git commit or Guix commit. Excuse me. Guix Savannah. And the repo log. And here's the commit. All right, and I'm going to drop that in right here. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my eat terminal, and then I'm going to run server configurations, dev deploy .sh. Now let me make sure that actually has, okay, it's calling Guix Time Machine and Guix deploy. So let's see how long this takes. First, it's going to have to pull down the latest Guix configuration and then all the other channels and then build everything. So while this is getting started, because it may take a moment, I'm going to take a 2-minute break and I will be right back. So just bear with me. Be right back. All right, so I think it was able to pull down the latest Guix, and now it's building the derivation for Guix itself and the channel configuration, and then it will go on to building the server config before it deploys it, and we'll take a look at whether it is successful or not. Let's see, what else is interesting about all of this? One of the main reasons why I'm trying to update Guix is because there have been a few Shepherd bug fix releases since Shepherd 1.0 came out. I don't know if the original Guix commit that I was on was actually before Shepherd 1.0. It might have been in like the pre-release versions of Shepherd before then. I'm not 100% certain about that, but regardless, whatever that hanging bug was with Shepherd, where I couldn't get status and I couldn't start or stop services anymore, I'm hoping that's going to be gone now. And whenever the new configuration starts up, hopefully I can diagnose whatever the remaining issues are with both servers running at the same time, or both sites running at the same time. Then we can move on from there to start actually working on functionality again. And we have some time, so I think that so long as this works, we should be good to go. For the backend of systemcrafters.net, what I'm thinking is, so I've mentioned this before, but the courses that I've been building, the hands-on Gauss scheme for beginners course being the first one. If you don't know about that one, go to systemcrafters.net/learn-scheme, and the information for that is there. But the courses are actually hosted on a separate site called guild.systemcrafters.net. And if you go there, you can see the courses list. And this is a dynamic site that only lets you go in if you are a participant in one of the courses. So if you were like in the June course last year, you would have to actually be logged in. I'm logged into the forum. That's the reason why I can get to this. But if you're not logged in to the forum and you're not a member of the group for that course, then you don't get to go into those pages. I want to replicate this in the main System Crafter site, so there shouldn't be any separate site anymore for going to the courses. And to do that, I want to have some part of the courses section of the main website dynamic based on whether you're currently logged in. So the site should be able to know whether you're logged in or not. You try to log in, it does the sort of federated auth with the forum site, and then the backend will put a cookie in your session so that the client-side code will know if you're logged in, and then it will show, you know, like a little profile button or whatever. You can go to your profile. That profile should be able to show you what courses you're in and any other information about your sort of System Crafters website account, and, you know, give you like a window into what you have access to, which is good because we currently don't have that on the current guild site, and I think that's been a problem for people. It's been kind of confusing for people who sign up. Sometimes they don't know exactly where to go. So that dynamic behavior should only show up in certain cases. So for instance, if you click the courses page, there might be a section here that's controlled by Datastar that looks to see if it thinks you're logged in already. And if it does, then it will do a dynamic request to the backend to give you that information about what courses you're in, and you can click through to go to one of those, basically. So the courses page here will be mostly static, but there will be a thing that you can click, or maybe a backend request that could happen that would give you dynamic behavior, let's say. So I think it's going to be a pretty cool setup whenever this actually works. I don't know that I've seen many sites like that before. I mean, sure, any site could do that, but having an actual statically generated page that is not being generated on the server at every request, but still can have some replaceable content based on the context, kind of nice. All right, cool. It looks like we're building the site now, which is good. We'll see how far that gets. We're drinking ultra watermelon flavored Monster today because they didn't have my other kind that I normally drink. The addiction runs deep. Speaking of that, where's Trev? Where's Trev been? Okay. Peter says that's being done a lot nowadays, as far as I can tell. Probably is. I'm just not really aware of what's being done with web development because I've kind of been out of the game for a while. Spent too long in developer tools, and the problem with that is that most jobs on the job market these days are web development. Who is messaging me? Glenn? Okay. So yeah, try not to pigeonhole yourself into something that's not very commonly hired for. That's my advice. Tony says, is it possible to craft a Guix system with non-free software? Absolutely. Go look at my installation guide, and it tells you how to set up a Guix system with non-free firmware. Specifically, go to systempreferences.net/guides, craft your system with Guix. You click on that, then there is an installing Guix as a complete GNU Guix system, and that's like the full tutorial for setting up Guix on a system with full Linux drivers, not just the Libre only stuff. Because let's be frank, it's like, I would say 90% of the cases of people installing Guix on a personal computer for their actual day-to-day workflow are going to be using hardware that does not fall within the Libre kernel. So most people are going to have to do it. Is it possible in a more philosophical sense? I don't know what philosophical means in that case, because it's a practical problem. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's a practical problem in my opinion. I mean, philosophical, I don't really care about, philosophy. I want to get stuff done. I want my computer to work. Now, philosophy of free software, like on a personal level, I would prefer that the software that I use to all be free software, but really we live in a world where that's kind of not possible for hardware drivers, because most systems we come in contact with these days are proprietary. Now, as like ARM-based or RISC-based systems become more common for desktop machines, I think that might change, but at least for now, with the x86 stuff and the kind of high-performance proprietary graphics card. Hello, Trev. Trev is here, but on the phone, so it's tricky to be on IRC at the same time. Cool. I'm glad to see you, Trev. I was worried. I didn't know if you were around these days. But then again, when am I? So what can I say? All right, let's see. We're finally getting there. I saw emaxpackages.com. Where's systempreferences.net? You'll see. Maybe it'll show up. Are your preferences equal to objective morality? Ideally drive 90% free software, but as you pointed out, I have to make a living somehow. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think of things in terms of pure philosophy. I think of things in terms of like what I want to accomplish and what's getting in my way. What I want to accomplish is to create a system that is reproducible for me and uses all the software that I want to use, like what you see in front of you. But practicality comes into the picture quite often, I think. Trev says, I was moving last week and it caused a forced detoxing from the computer. I hate that. Peter says, I have no trouble running app image programs on Guix. I need to find some solution for, oh, yeah. So app image also needs you to at least have the, what do they call it? The Linux loader, whatever that root.so file is for the launching processes or whatever, like I don't know what it's called. But there's a specific library that is supposed to be in the specific location as far as the Linux file system hierarchy standard is concerned. And I think the app image binary, whatever it does to wrap everything, it needs that. So you might have to run it inside of a Guix shell with the emulate FHS parameter to make it work. Trev says fuse. I don't know. That could be part of it too. Tony says, Guix is the perfect tool for your stated goal, reproducibility, extensibility, stability, etc. Yes, it is. And that's why I use it. But like, I also, I am not using Guix in the philosophically pure sense that it's supposed to be free software thing. But the thing is, Guix is not necessarily trying to force anybody to use free software. Guix, the core distribution, the core channel, must only promote free software, or at least free software compatible licensed programs, because it is a free software distribution and it adheres to the free software distribution guidelines. Now, many of the people who are sort of like maintainers of the project or core contributors to the project, of the Guix project, they do care a lot about free software, and I think they would prefer to keep it that way. But the design of Guix is such that you can pull in software from wherever you want, because you can put channels in for anything. So I would say that Guix itself is perfectly free in the sense that the core distribution only gives you free software or free software compatible licensed software. And then you have the ability to then pull in whatever else you want using channels. And you can package up software any way you want. So to me, that's the best of both worlds because I have full control. And I'm not being hampered by someone's ideology, which I'm not saying that as a derogative term. I'm just saying, you know, it's an ideology. Free software is an ideology. I'm not being hampered by someone's strict ideology to prevent me from doing what I need to do. Guix gives me the control and freedom to do what I want to do the way I want to do it, which is great. Now, Guix is complex, and if you want to do things your way, you might have to do extra work, which is what I'm doing with this project right now. You can see I had to go to a lot of extra work to set things up to be packaged and run in Guix. And if you have a really complicated program, it might take a lot of work to get it packaged in Guix correctly if you're trying to build it from scratch, or even if you're just trying to pull in the binary package. But it does give you control and reproducibility, which is nice. And I appreciate that aspect. Over the years that I've been using Guix, I've been writing something about this that I want to send to the guild members at some point soon. But over the years that I've been using Guix, every time I've kind of drifted away to try some other distro, I've always come back to Guix because of the specific ways that it allows me to do exactly what I want to do. Like for instance, create inline package definitions for a very specific piece of software that I want to pull in without having to go create my own channel or contribute a package definition to some other channel like the main Guix repo or whatever. I can just like make a package definition inline in my configuration and use it when I need to, especially if it's sort of a throwaway thing. Service definitions, everything else. I just feel like I have way more control over my system because of Guix and not in spite of it. That's my lecture for today. Tony says, it seems like you've reached the end game of Linux in many respects, which is Guix for you. I'm not working on creating my Guix tutorial. I'm working on creating my Guix tutorial as well as using your tutorials as R&D. That's cool. I mean, in game, I don't know. What I would say is Linux. Okay, it says it deployed it. I hope it worked. Let's take a quick look at it real quick. The site is still not loading, and I have no idea why. This also is not loading. What the hell's going on? Does not support encryption. Oh, Nginx needs to be restarted. Yeah, I keep running into this problem. Sudo herd restart Nginx. Cool. There it is. There it is. Thank God. All right. They're working. And now /hello. That one's not working, but we can at least deal with that. The fact that Emacs packages site is working is a good thing. Okay. Oh, thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. For the $5 super chat. So back to what I was saying. What is the end goal of using Linux? Well, I would say for me, it's not really so much of an end goal as it is like, I just want things to be out of my way and be able to put together the system that I want. And Linux itself, I feel like the point is that you should be able to build the kind of system that you want because it's just a kernel, and then you just kind of assemble the tools around the kernel. And Guix is sort of like the best toolkit for accomplishing that, in my opinion. All right, so the Emacs packages site is working, which is good. The backend for the system crafter site is not working. Let me see if I can check out some logs on that. So ls var log. The system crafter's log files are not being created. I have no idea why that's not happening. Let me go double check. Let's see. The services file for the site. It should be under var log system crafter server.log. So it tells me, what I think it's telling me is that something is not launching correctly. So maybe in let's see, sudo at bar log messages grep sc site. All right, so has started stopping. When was that? 722? 722. Sudo herd status. Site dbinit. Okay. So sudo herd enable se site backend. Sudo herd start se site backend. Whoops. I wonder if it crashed somehow. That's not a good sign. The fact that he just kind of hanged like that. Oops. Okay, so it's responding now. It actually started. Okay. So that's weird. Now herd is not responding anymore. So maybe that's what Peter was suggesting before, is that somehow Shepherd is getting hung by the service whenever it starts up. But the thing is, it's a fork exec constructor. It should be forking off the process before launching it. And then he just gets hanged, which doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, that worked, didn't it? All right. But status no longer works, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you can't get status anymore. Does it start the site, though? Can I restart it? No. Yeah, so it's like Shepherd just gets in a bad state. Shepherd version. 103. That's the latest one. So GNU Shepherd. I don't think that the news is up to date though on the site. Guile announce. Is that right? Guile user. I know I saw it on one of these. Archives. Okay, 103 release on March 19th. Is there anything for Shepherd in here? Let's see. Sudo tail in 1,000. Maybe 500. Bar log messages. I didn't mean to kill the process. Did it ever tell us it was starting it? No. Conflicting server name. How's it conflicting? Ah, Zerka says that he just watched Tony's Nginx OS VOD. That's cool. I should check that out. It's weird, man. I don't know what's going on here. But it definitely is doing something wrong. I need a way to deal with this. If I were to kill the root shepherd process, it would probably shut the server down, I'm guessing. Look at this. This is kind of funny. Inhibit service respawn during shutdown. This is a new bug fix or feature in Shepherd. Until now, the ability to respawn services remained functional during shutdown. This caused troubles on Guix system, where a user processes service terminates all processes when it is stopped, which as a consequence could lead to Shepherd to respawn services even though it's being shut down. I actually had this problem in the past where I think that certain Guix home services were being restarted constantly whenever I was trying to shut down the machine. It was causing the shutdown to hang. I think that's what was happening. Let's check the manual real quick. So GNU Shepherd manual. Just in case there's a better way to do what I'm doing, because I'm getting a little concerned something's wrong here. Service DN constructors. Make fork exec constructor. Chris says, I remember that one too. Yeah, that was a pain in the ass. I think it was sync thing. Sync thing kept like restarting and or one of them, or it could have been the Docker container that I was running on my user account via Guix Home. Something was doing it for sure. Let's see, PID file. Create session is true. Child process creates a new session with set sid and becomes its leader. The process daemonizes. But mine does not do that. It's strange to me too that the system crackers folder didn't get created. Does it need to be created before the service starts up for it to work correctly? Thing is, it doesn't tell you what actions are available. That's one thing that annoys me about Shepherd and Herd. Is you don't really know what it gives you. Exec command. What's different? Yeah, there's make fork exec constructor. And there's exec command. Run command as a current process from directory. me, should it have a PID file? Or is that because SSHD daemonizes itself? Oh, okay, it is expecting a PID file to show up. Specify whether the service should be respond. Start the service, the process terminates, respond delay, respond limit. One-shot transient. Constructor of the service should be called. The service must be a procedure that accepts any number of arguments. It would be applied by the user. Starting attempt failed. It must return F. Oh, that's interesting. A procedure that accepts any number of arguments. Those arguments will be those supplied by the user, for instance, by passing them to herd start. So you can actually pass arguments through herd start, and those get passed into the constructor function. That's interesting. Constructors must terminate successfully or not in a timely fashion. Peter says it should only have a PID file if the server forks a daemon. It should not need that if service blocks. Yeah, this service is definitely blocking. I wonder if there's a signal that I could send to Shepard to kind of wake it up. Doesn't look like it. Like sig user 1 or something like that. Let's see, invoking herd. Display up to the number lines of the service. Herd status service -n number. Yeah, nothing is working. I can't even get status on the site. I have to ask Ludovic about this. Something really weird is going on. I'm going to have to force restart the server, it seems. Before I do that, though, let me try something. Sudo makedir var log messages system crafters. Because I kind of gotta... What? Can the service stop normally, like if I kill it? ls var log. lsal. So that's root. That's also root. Okay, it seems to be the same. ps aux grep dial. Let's see, so we got Shepard running, and we got the Emacs packages site running. So can the service stop normally? Could it be Shepard hangs when stopping the backend service? I don't think so. We tried to reboot before and it didn't work, did it? I had to actually manually reboot the server. Let's try it though. Let's just see. Sudo reboot. And that's hanging. I had seen that happen before. Peter says, I was more thinking of herd stop foobar as checking it returns and foobar stopped. Well, we had a problem with that before. I don't know if I had killed the session that we were in, but I stopped the service So the backend apparently crashed coming up and it got disabled. So I re-enabled it. And I started it. And then Shepard, I think, still responded. No. Okay, I enabled it and I started it, and then Shepard hanged and then didn't respond again after that. The site is still up, I'm pretty sure. Where is it? Yeah, it's still responding. Well, the reboot seemed to start, but it never did finish. I had to go manually restart it. Yeah, I can't even do anything now. I'm gonna have to go manually restart it again, which is terrible for a server. Yeah, okay. You can tell that it's restarting because none of my key presses are going through. And then on here, also not responding. So it is restarting now that I forced it to. All right, should be back up again. Let's see. All right, so sudo herd status. It seems that the site backend is up and it did not crash this time. But the Emacs package's site is not working. Neither of them are working. I feel like I keep getting in this state where the Guile backends no longer respond. There's site and SE site backend, all right? Sudo herd status SE site backend. Cat var log system crafters server.log sudo cat. It's not there, is it? Delete is not working. Okay, there's a file there. Not being flushed. 0 bytes, great. Fantastic. And server.log was last touched on March 19th, which is weird. Restart Nginx. I don't know. It shouldn't matter in this case. Okay, so cat sudo tail in 500 var log messages less. That's another restart thing. Okay, so starting site db init. I think I just saw it say that the 806, right? Okay. Site db init has started. Running. Backend should behave properly without the reverse proxy. I don't have the ports open. Yeah, something's wrong. Which makes me think that there must be some other conflict with both of them running at the same time. Term console. Fail to ban. The hell? Okay, SC site backend has started. You didn't tell me what the program was, though. Oh, here it is. Start server.scm. Service site has been started. Okay, site has been started with that command. Then why in the hell are they not doing anything? Unless Nginx is busted somehow. Because I keep seeing some weird messages. That would be really damn annoying if that was the case. Because they're running, the processes are running. Can I curl? I don't have curl. Guix shell curl. Curl HTTP localhost 8082/hello. Eh? Ha! Hello world. Okay, so this is an Nginx problem after all. I wonder if Glenn was actually right. Let's see. Sudo herd restart Nginx. What in the hell, dude? No way. No way. Okay. So what is the explanation? What is the explanation? I did see something in the Nginx logs in var log messages, so let's see. Sudo cat var log messages rep Nginx. I keep seeing this thing, it says conflicting server name in the config, and that it's ignored. It keeps showing up here and there, and I wonder if that's somehow a problem. Let's go look at the configuration for the servers. So on the System Crafters one, I'm saying this is Nginx server configuration that is running on port 80, but it's bound to a specific domain. I didn't think that it would matter if there were multiple server configurations on the same port. Nginx, can there be multiple server configurations on the same port? I would think that that is fine, right? Glenn says, I just fell out of my chair. Yes, you were right, Glenn. You were right. All right. You need to configure both in the same server block. Selects a virtual host used based on the HTTP host header and request and port number. Reverse proxy. Set up multiple SSL certificates for one IP with Nginx. Okay, sure. There's example.com, example.org. But it's two different domains. everything's fine, right? It should be possible to have a listen set up for the same port on 2 different domains. Let me see then if I can... conflicting server name. Nginx, conflicting server name. Same IP? I'm not setting it though. Am I? Yeah, I'm not setting an IP on them. I'm just setting ports. I mean, I see that it is saying 0000. That's for sure. Multiple server blocks in Nginx configuration have the same server name directive. That can't be right, though, because they don't. Because they're literally not the same. Conflicting server names, staging.emacspackages.com. Okay. grep server name. Well, I mean, we can look at the Nginx config and see what it says in it. Let's see. In fact, we could also... What is the eat? Control C, Control L, fine. Let me grab this. Environment variable? I don't think so. Oh, such file or directory. Do not open error log file. Oh, yeah, I can't write that. Fine. Makes sense. It's in the store path. Nginx.conf. I know that it shows up somewhere. So sudo herd status nginx. Hey, there it is. Good. Recent messages. Got it. So I want to look at the conf file and see what's in there. Okay. So then cat. See what we got in here. Okay, 2 server blocks, one for staging systemcovers.net, one for staging emacspackages.com. Okay, it's right. That's true. There are 2 server blocks. How? I'm very confused. Where did that come from? Oh, is that the certbot stuff? The hell? Yeah, that's what we're doing. I kind of feel like what happened here is that something generated extra server entries for some strange reason. It's got to be certbot, right? Because certbot also is listening on the same domain and port to do the well-known, right? So how do you stop it from doing that? Okay, Guix certbot. Also, let me take a look at this one too. Server blocks. Listen 80 servernamewebsite.com. The duplicate block is on port 80, but oh. I think I'm doing that. Yeah, because I did actually put a listen on 80. Commented out until you need to renew SSL. I don't want to have to do that. That could be it, Peter, actually. At least for that, though. I don't know why it would totally hose everything else. Maybe it's unrelated. Maybe it's unrelated. So we only want to listen on 443 anyway. Okay, so let's try that. I'm going to go into the Emacs packages repo as well and go to the Guix modules, services, and then I'm going to take 80 out of there because, yeah, we don't really want to listen on 80. I don't know what I was thinking. So is Herd still listening? Sudo herd status. Okay, we should be able to redeploy without trouble in that case. Hey, Boo. Boo says, you want it to be available over pure HTTP? Otherwise, I consider the 301 to HTTPS to be fine. Yeah, you're right. I screwed up. That's 100%. Well, it is a problem. It's causing those errors to show up from the Nginx config loader. I don't know if it's causing the particular issue we're seeing, but that's something we should fix anyway because it's wrong. All right, so we're going to go back down to server configurations, dev deploy. Let's see what happens here. We're generating the static files of the website again. That's one downside to this approach I'm taking now where the Guix package generates the static files of the site. Is that every time it needs to rebuild, the site is regenerating all the static files. That's fine though, because at least we get a clean build every time we try to deploy. And it doesn't take that long. Maybe if I had like a couple thousand more org files, it'd be a problem. Almost there. Definitely a lot slower than just rsyncing some files over to a server as well, but I think this is better. I'm willing to put up with the delay just because I'm able to get such reproducibility out of it and the ability to easily stand this up in a container and try it out, which is really cool. All right, let's double check the site. Hello site works. The Emacs packages site works. Let's go check the logs on the server and see if it complained about anything again. Kind of doubt it this time. Sudo tail in 300, let's say, maybe 100, I don't know. Var log messages. All right, so site init, db init running. Certbot stuff is running. User homes, that was at 23, okay. Transient 2350. Let's just grep that actually. Sudo cat var log messages grep se site backend. Is that what I want to see? Recording replacement for se site backend. What does recording replacement mean though? Sudo herd status se site backend. I guess it didn't need to restart because nothing changed about it. Replacement pending. Restart to upgrade. Aha. Replacement pending. Now that's something I haven't actually paid attention to. But I guess it makes sense. You don't necessarily want it to automatically restart your site service if it's running. Like, you've got it running, and you want to have control over whenever you restart it to take the new version. Can it tell me which services are in that state? Probably site is also in that state. Yep, restart to upgrade. What about Nginx? Restart to upgrade. Okay. So sudo herd restart Nginx. And all of them restarted. Cool. Okay, that's nice. And did we get any error? Yeah, no more errors about the stuff not running. So let's check the herd status Nginx. And it's not complaining anymore. Let me go back to tail in. All that stuff started up just fine. And I think Nginx did not complain. Okay. Wait, when was that? 26, 25. Whoa. Again? All right, we're gonna look at the conf file again. Yeah, it's just 443 this time. 443. Good to see you, Boo. Boo says you should be able to stuff that into a package or some other kind of derivation to separate the site from the configuration, I think. Interesting. So it's still complaining. But it worked. All right, let me think about one other thing. One thing that I kept doing in my server configs is that little Nginx restart deal. Nginx deploy hook. Deploy hook. That is necessary to restart the Nginx server. Called input file, kill pid sighup. So what I'm thinking is, how do I automate restarting Nginx after I deploy? I mean, I guess what I can do is use there is a deploy-x, which lets you run a given command. So if I were to look that up, where are we? Exit. Guix deploy help. Pretty sure that's it, right? Dash lowercase x execute. Execute the following command on all the machines. I mean, I kind of need to do that, I think. Herd restart Nginx. Can I actually have it do that right now? Oh, I need to point it to the configuration. And I might need to do all the load path crap too. Unfortunately. Hold up. Deploy option file. I mean, can I just like put that in? As part of the deploy command? Does that run after? How does it work? I guess we'll have to try it, huh? Let's go back into the shell. All right, so we got that. -L-X herd restart Nginx. What do you mean no command given? I gave it to you right there. Form the deployment specified by file. All right, Guix manual deploy. Maybe the other one was the development version. Yeah. -X. Deploy file dash. Oh, you have to put the file first? Ah, okay, fine, whatever. Once you deploy the system, you may find it useful to run a command on all the machines. Execute or X option lets you do that. Restart service. One thing you may often need to do after deployment is restart specific services on all the machines. So that makes sense. Oh, you can use Guix deploy to roll things back too. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Boo. Should be able to tag -X onto the first deploy command if I'm not wrong. Does it deploy it first or does it do it kind of separately, I wonder? I guess we'll find out if I run it this way. Well, let's do this. Let's do this. -X herd restart Nginx. Ooh, I can't have two dashes though. Look at that. I got Geek's Time Machine already. But it did work. Huh. Well, at any rate, we may need to do both. So we'll just put them both in there. And I also need to do the same thing. My tab just crashed. Okay. The tab I was monitoring the stream chat on crashed apparently. Okay, so where are we? Where are we? Need to do the same thing in the deploy.sh file then. So let's do that. Deploy-L -X herd restart Nginx. Okay. So then if I go back to each shell and run dev deploy, then let's see what it does. It should have already deployed it. Okay. I learned something new every stream. Peter says, I don't have the duplicated block for port 80. Maybe you're not turning on certbot for all the time. Let me see what the certbot stuff says here. My cert blocks for well-known are in a separate block tied to the host name. Yeah, that's what I have too. Okay. All right, Emacs packages site and the system corruptor site both seem to be okay. They're both running. So I think that there was a couple things going on here. One was my mistaken understanding of when things are going to get restarted, when services are going to get restarted, because apparently they're not, which makes sense because that doesn't happen usually whenever you update your Guix system, right? You update your Guix system, some things don't get restarted by default because it would disrupt your running session. Like if you restarted GDM, it would kick you out of your desktop session, so you can't do that. So you actually have to go reboot on purpose to make the new stuff work. There's a default location field in the certbot config record that specifies an Nginx location. Yeah. Certificate configuration, it's right here. Domains, and all I have is just the domains list. Yep. Let me go back one more time and look at the config. So I SSH back into the server. Sudo herd status Nginx. I'll go grab the conf file. And I see that it's 443 for both the staging sites. And then it's listed on 80 for staging systemcrafters.net and staging.emacspackages.com. So that should be separate now. If I also sudo cat var log messages rep ignored 2633. That shouldn't be right. That must be an old message because that can't be right. Sudo herd status Nginx. Because it's been running since 34, which is 3 minutes ago, and that error was written at 8:26. So I think that we're fine. I think we've resolved that problem now, and everything is working. And also because we were forcing Nginx to be restarted whenever I redeploy, it also has the benefit of restarting all of the services relating to the backend sites. So if you see here after this deploy, I restarted Nginx, and then it restarted certbot, and it restarted the SE site backend and site DB init and site. Okay. So I think we're clear on all that now. I feel a little bit better about that. In fact, let me go ahead and try to commit some things so that we don't lose all this lovely work. That's not important. Yeah, we just need to take the port 80 stuff out of these. So I'll just check in that file. Remove port 80 from site service. Is there anything else I changed? Nope. The same thing for Emacs packages site, find file services. I think that's right, right? Yeah, I took that out there. Start server, did I change anything on that? I took site DB out, that's fine. I'll add that in. So then, yep, all right. Remove port 80 from site service. And then over on the server configs, we updated the channel. I'll do that separately. Then on deploy.sh and dev deploy, we are, let's see, restart Nginx service after deployment. Push that too. Did I push the Emacs package? Okay, so all those are pushed now, which is good. What is in main server now? I think I had taken all the CI stuff out, which is fine. Okay. So now we do have 2 sites running. Boost says, first time I'm seeing VC rather than Magit. How are you finding it? It's fine. I always say it's fine because it gets the job done. It's not really the best experience you could possibly have for a Git interface inside of Emacs, but it does work if you don't want to bother putting Magit in. And why would I not just use Magit? Because I'm just doing that thing where I'm trying to use inbox packages more. Otherwise, I would use Magit because obviously it's better. It's way better. But VC is fine. Can't do interactive rebase, but you can do hunk staging and stuff like that, which is good enough. You just have to kind of get used to the way that it wants you to do things. Okay, so we've got 20-ish minutes left. What did I say in the crafter hours log? Yeah, this is old. Because I changed branches. Can I merge? VC merge. Merge from branch master. Can I do that? Great. It worked. Now, crafter hours, if I were to revert buffer. Yes, I think he already did it. There we go. Cool. We got our agenda back. Run through the systemcrafters.net deployment packaging. Yep, did that. Yeah, I think I figured that out. Yeah. Make sure both sites can run at the same time. Yep. All right, so SC site backend. What do we want to say about that? What is the most valuable thing I could do? Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back, and we'll. There's an idea I have. We'll see if it might work, but it also might not. I'll be right back. All right, so one thing that's going to be necessary is for the user of the site to be able to log in to the forum and have that login follow through to the actual website. Where's the staging site? Here it is. So the current way that it works on the guild website is I have a kind of a well, there's a whole flow to it. Guild. Don't I have the guild code here? That's not right. There it is. Okay. So source forum, is that it? It's all JavaScript because I'm running this on like Cloudflare functions. So the current guild site is all just a bunch of JavaScript code. And that's part of the reason why I want to rewrite it in Guile, so that I'm not maintaining JavaScript anymore that I can't test very easily because it's running on some function engine in the Cloudflare. Obviously, there's local testing stuff for that, but I'd rather just not do that if I don't have to. Send invite, force invite. What is a login thing? Functions, login. Here we are. Okay. So there's some stuff in here that we're gonna have to replicate because there's a whole process involved with doing single sign-on with Discourse Forum, which is what I'm doing. Like instead of having someone sign up for an account on systemcrackers.net with my own login backend, I've been using single sign-on with the forum, which has worked pretty well actually. But I just need to replicate what we've been doing so far. So I guess the first step would be to try to replicate this. There's like the HMAC signature stuff is one thing that needs to be dealt with. However, I think that Guile hashing library that I ran into does do HMAC. Yeah, where is that? Weinholt/hashing. There it is. I'm pretty sure I saw something about HMAC in there. It'd be really nice if there is, because then I won't have to go write it myself. HMAC. Excellent. Ensures a procedure that calculates the HMAC given a secret and data, both of which are byte vectors. So, all right, import key. So I'll probably be able to do that. Convert the signature to a hex string. Okay, not a problem. So I think this is the, yeah, this is the sort of the callback endpoint. So /login is the callback endpoint. And how was I initiating that? So course login redirect. So I log in. Okay, then there's a redirect query parameter that I was using to redirect back after a successful login. That makes sense. If they don't have a current user session, then I automatically redirect. Okay. And this really needs to be kind of a middleware, I think. You see my little hacky code that I had to put in there because of things changing over time. Oh yeah, and this is actually a middleware function for Cloudflare. All right, so so what happens then is that you end up at that login endpoint, and inside the handler for that, on request, I check to see if they have a session cookie. Okay, and then it redirects them to the profile page. Otherwise, it tries to do the verification of the payload. This is probably not the best thing to work on first, but it actually is necessary because all the dynamic behavior of the site requires them to be logged in. I would say the vast majority will require them to be logged in. So this will need to get figured out sooner rather than later. Okay, we're storing the session. That won't really be needed anymore. Well, it will be needed, actually. And it could be a database table. I'm using some kind of key value storage on Cloudflare for that. And we set the cookie with the SSO information. Okay. Create an SSO payload and store the nonce as a cookie. So I'm making a UUID. Is there a library in Guile for that? Guile UUID. Did I have to make one of those? No, wrong. How to generate a UUID from scratch. Is there a command line tool that can generate them? Because that's probably fine, I think. Specific library such as UUID. That's an NPM, dude. I'm not using that. All right. What Guix packages do we have at our disposal? Just a bunch of language packages. Let's call in a common list just to generate a UUID. That'd be fun, right? Is that what it is? Okay, we're just generating random numbers. We can combine the innovative use of a generator function in JavaScript. UUID gen. I feel like that would have showed up. There it is. Oh, and maybe that comes from another package. Oh, wait. So this Julia package has... Aha, util Linux. We're already there, right? So let's check that out. Go to eat. Guix shell utils Linux UUID gen. Util, oh, okay. I should read what text is right in front of me. Yeah, what's the point of writing an algorithm when I could just shell it to a program and get the output back? Because that seems to work just fine. So why not do that? Thank you very much, Carswell's Code. I think that's a better solution for that. So let me go into the server. And I want to just make a little function for this to find. I mean, we're not going to really write this right now because we don't have time. I just want to get something started to remember what we're up against next time. So there's requests and body for the handler. And then we're going to return values, content type something. Application HTML, is that right? Just for fun. Actually, we don't even need a title. Let's just do HTML body, H1. Log in. You're being admonished. Body, HTML. Okay. Probably should test this locally, which shouldn't be a problem. And also the URI path thing, we're gonna have to change that because I don't want to match only the string login because we're gonna have query parameters to deal with here. So login handler request body. But then again, the path. Hold on. Guile web URI. Peter says because shelling out to an OS utility binds your app to the underlying OS, which is a maintenance nightmare when distributed in large organizations, but fine for one-person stuff. Yeah, I mean, it'd be better if there was a library for that, and I suppose we could write one, but I would rather avoid it for now. But it's definitely an exercise for someone who would be interested in writing such a library in Guile. Path query. All right, query is separate. That's actually fine. That's fine. So what do I have here? Systemcrafters.net. Start server, right? There is a Guile UUID. It's not packaged. What's on Codeberg / ELB Guile UUID. 8 months ago. All right. Okay, so it's following the standard. Great. Okay, maybe we'll do that instead then. No Guix package, but that's no problem. Okay, so let's just drop that in. Do package. We can package that. That should be pretty easy, actually. Depending on what is being used in there. Looks like just stuff that's built in. Oh, gcrypt. That's fine. Gcrypt's pretty common. Okay. So what I want to do, is there a script for this? Publish. What did I do in the Emacs packages repo? There was like dev script, emacsPackages.com. No dev server.sh. Okay. We will definitely want that. Let's go back over to server.scm and we're going to say scripts. Oh, well, apparently I already have one. That's fantastic. So scripts, dev server. Come on. All right, so 8080. Localhost 8080/login. I'm pretty sure it responded correctly, but I must have given it the wrong content type. What am I looking at? Is that right? So HTTP application / HTML, is that right? Is it supposed to be text HTML? HTML MIME type. Text HTML. Why did it do that? I should do this with meta-x compile. Come on now, why does it take so long? Already in use. Makes sense. I never killed the other one. I also need to set the REPL port. Oops, boom. There it is, okay. Well, very, what do you call it? Exciting development. We have a simple HTML string that shows up in the browser and renders correctly. Nothing to write home about. One last thing I want to do here, though. Let me set, what is it, compile command. So, add to dear local variable nil compile command. I want it to be a REPL port equals what was the standard port for that? Connect to Guile, is that right? 37146. Scripts dev server.sh. Is that gonna work? Trailing garbage. You're trailing garbage. Needs to be an actual string, people. Oh, okay, that worked. I don't know. Did I do that on purpose? I must have done that on purpose. Okay, fine. So, normal mode. Now, compile. Whatever. 37146. Start it. Why is it taking so long? Starting REPL server. Thank God. All right, now we can actually do live development. So Geyser connect. Great. Now, let's just check it. Crafter. Didn't work. But I think it's because, oh no, we're calling login handler here. I think it's a typical issue of values of things being captured. It needs to be in a separate module. I think, at least. Shouldn't have been, though. What if I restart? It takes way too long to restart. Okay, fine. All right, well, I think that's it for the day. Let's quickly take a look at the notes and say what we want to do next time. Crafter hours. So we could say that we started thinking about looking into implementing Forum SSO login on systemcrafters.net. Next time. I mean, I guess the question is, what will be the most interesting thing to look at next time? I mean, I guess I'm interested in feedback from the audience here as well. Would you rather see me trying to rewrite some of the JavaScript-based backend of the Guild website into Scheme for the new System Crafter site, or would you rather see me continue working on emacspackages.com for the purpose of adding more of the features we had in mind to get that site ready for eventual deployment? I mean, from my perspective, I would actually like to get the new System Crafter site going pretty soon. Brain slug? No, it's not supposed to be possible. Don't know what we're talking about there. What's not supposed to be possible? Having a website written in Guile? Carswell says it's great to see you building a live site. Yeah, well, it will be. Working on the System Crafter site would be more real than working on Emacs Packages site in the short term. I mean, both of them will be deployed and out there for the public soon enough, but the System Crafter's website gets a lot more traffic, that's for sure. So maybe I will spend some time next time on continue implementing forum SSO auth. That may require session storage. Auth-flow session storage in DB. Lynn says, I'd like to see the SE backend complete, understand how they work. Yeah. Let's see, auth-flow session storage, and then auth middleware, and dynamic logged in user display on the site by a data star. That's sort of what I have in mind. Maybe I should actually break that down into subtasks. Routes. Yeah, so that sounds pretty good. I mean, if we could do that, that'd be pretty fun. I don't know if we can do all of it because there is kind of some code involved there, but I might try doing some things off stream just to get ready for it. Like packaging that UUID library and seeing what else is needed. Because I don't know, the nuts and bolts of that signing library stuff, or the request signing stuff, it would be interesting to see that written, I think, but it also might take the entire stream. It might be boring, and I don't really want to bore people to death, so we'll see. Maybe I'll have time to do that. All right, anyway, I think that we made some progress today. I feel like at least I have a better understanding of what makes a site go wrong when hosting multiple sites. Peter says horizontal scaling of the backend. That would be a lot more complicated because we would have to have, you know, multiple VMs and a load balancer of some sort in front of it, which obviously you could do that with Nginx. But then you would also need to have a Postgres database, probably, so that both of the site VMs that are running the backend could have access to the same database, so that the Peter says maybe not needed as it uses fibers. Well, it won't be needed so much just because the vast majority of the load will be on Nginx and not on the backend. The goal will be for a user that is not logged into the website, which would be most people visiting the site, they would not actually hit any dynamic parts of the site unless they did it on purpose. That would be my goal. And that should keep the pressure down on the back end. So we shouldn't need scaling for quite a long time. I mean, I just got an email with my analytics for the week. Let me see. I'm not gonna pull it up on the screen here, but where was it? I mean, in the last week, I had like 4,000 page views, which is not that much. It's not so much that I'm worried that the site is going to go down. And out of 4,000 page views, probably like, 1% of that would end up being logged in dynamic views. Or maybe, 2-3%. So I think it's going to be minimal. Running this on a $5 VM should be fine, so long as we don't get like crushed by major traffic from some source like Hacker News or something, which usually doesn't happen. All right, so I already pushed up all the code. I'll push up the links to everything else. Offloading sessions to a database makes not a lot of sense if not horizontally scaled. You mean, should I just keep it in memory? The only reason why I wouldn't keep it in memory is that if I restart the server, then all the session information gets lost. So that's why I don't really want to just make it in memory. Otherwise, it would be super easy just to have it all in memory. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. Maybe it's fine to just blow it away. Yes, the /dotting of your sessions can be persisted over restarts with just dumping sessions in a file. Okay, I mean, that's true. I could write a plain old S expression file out and then read it back in. Yes, that's true. Maybe we could do something like that. But we're gonna need a database anyway. So that's the reason why I'm thinking putting it in database. This is because I'm gonna have to have a database for storing information about users and like what courses they have and various other things. So it makes sense to have one anyway. All right, I'll push the notes up with all the relevant links, etc. And then we'll be back here on Wednesday to continue to work on the System Prepper site backend, see how far we can get. Cool. Thank you all for being here today. Appreciate your time and attention and for sticking with me. I also appreciate all the helpful suggestions that were made in the chat because it did help me to get unblocked, which is good. Thank you. And hope you have a great day. Until next time, happy hacking. See ya.